Everybody can come back. We can do this in Hawaii.
Once you have all this quarantine crap done.
So that's a little bit about me.
Okay.
I'd like you to give me your version, your self-introduction, and start with, my name is, and then just go ahead and tell me about yourself.
Well, how long do you want me to go? We'll start with that.
I'll rope you in if it starts going too long.
Okay.
Just go for it.
Okay. My name is John Richard Burns. I go by Rick. Everything. I graduated from Palmer College of Chiropractic in 1973. Joined the faculty in 1973 at Palmer College of Chiropractic, and I taught there for 40 years, and I've been in practice for 48 years. Everything. It's still fun.
And what would you say is the biggest change in that 48 years for you personally?
I've become a better chiropractor because I just keep trying to perfect my art, and so and I figured out that's why they call it the practice of chiropractic. It's not that I figured it out. This is the practice of chiropractic. I feel I'm a better chiropractor this week than I was last week.
And where are you going to be in about 10 years? What do you see?
Well, I still plan on seeing patients. I thoroughly enjoy seeing patients. If it wasn't fun, I wouldn't keep doing it. God's been good to me. But that is my hobby. I don't have any desire to golf every day or play shuffleboard every day. I thoroughly enjoy seeing patients.
So you're telling me on your days off, you're seeing patients, or like?
Well, I see patients Monday through Friday, right? So.
And give me an idea of what your average day at the office looks like.
Right. Well, we see patients.
How many? What time? You got how many doctors?
Well, it's just me. Right. My daughter did practice with me, but she passed last year. Right. So it's just me. I see patients 10 to noon, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and every afternoon 3 to 7. Because when I taught at Palmer College of Chiropractic, my contract at Palmer, I taught 7:30 to 2:30, and then that was on the Iowa side of the Mississippi River, and I'd drive to the Illinois side to practice. So after I quit teaching at Palmer, I just kept the 3 to 7 hours in the afternoon. So.
And I apologize for bringing it up, but we just this morning we started with on-rigs.
Mm-hmm.
And so one thing that Claudia brought up was the multi-generational part of it.
Yeah.
And so she mentioned how she sees children and the children's parents, multi-generational at the time, but also the unique aspect of her being, having her teacher be her father.
Yeah, yeah.
So what can you add to that sort of narrative of multi-generational?
Well, my grandfather was 1924, graduate of Palmer College of Chiropractic, and he was actually a friend of Dr. Gonstead's. Dr. Gonstead graduated in 23, Grandpa graduated in 24. My uncle was 1961 graduate of Palmer College of Chiropractic. I was 1973 graduate of Palmer College of Chiropractic, and my daughter was 2009. So we got 4 generations. As far as patients, my record's 5 generations of patients.
5?
Yeah.
Wow. Did they come in together, or is it more? Obviously, they're not going to come together. But
No.
Well, we see.
Well, unfortunately, the first 2 generations are gone now.
So you said your dad, was it your dad?
No, grandfather, uncle, me, and daughter.
And who was the one that, let's say, was in contact the most with Dr. Gonstead?
My grandfather. Because the classes, Palmer, even when I went to school, it was called the Palmer community. You didn't have a life outside of Palmer. So if you needed a haircut, we had many, many, many second career people. So if you needed a haircut, you saw a Palmer student that was a barber. If you needed a car mechanic, you saw a Palmer student that was a car mechanic. Well, the same thing back then is everything that happened within the community. So you knew everybody on campus when Grandpa went to school, and the same thing when I went to school.
And then, so your grandpa did he share any kind of stories, funny stories or memories about his contact with Dr. Gonstead?
No, he just...
He didn't say anything?
Yeah, because his routine was, he practiced in central Illinois, a little farm town called Tuscola. Okay, and every August was Palmer College of Chiropractic homecoming. So Grandpa would come up for homecoming in August. Okay, and then he'd drive up to Mount Horeb to get adjusted by Dr. Gonstead. So that was his once a year contact with Dr. Gonstead, was he'd come get adjusted in August up here.
Just once a year.
Yeah. Well, he got adjusted more than that, but by Dr. Gonstead once a year.
And so why did you decide that when did you decide that you're going to be a chiropractor?
Kind of a strange story, right, is I was a so-called math whiz, loved numbers, right, and I was offered a full ride scholarship in engineering at University of Illinois when I was 16, because I was young for my class anyhow. I was a junior in high school, and I couldn't see starting college, at that young age. And so I went ahead and went my senior year of high school, and my senior year of high school had a professor, so you used to have to teach from the college, and had a teacher in an American Problems class say, we need you to write a paper on your profession. I procrastinated, and I thought, night before, I thought, how am I going to write anything on engineering? And I thought, well, they'll never know, because I went and got adjusted by Grandpa, but I didn't know why. That was just life. You went to get adjusted by Grandpa. After football practice, I'd go up and get adjusted by Grandpa. I just did that and had no clue as why. I thought, I'll just pretend I'm going to be a chiropractor. And so I went to Grandpa's office, and they call them health tracks, but they're actually disease tracks. It was kidney and stomach problems and stuff like that. And then there's a book that Dee Dee Palmer wrote called The Chiropractor's Adjuster, which is a big book. And I got that, and so I read some of the pamphlets that Grandpa had. I read that, and then I wrote a paper saying I'm going to be a chiropractor. And the next week I turned down the scholarship, and my parents were ticked. to give up a scholarship to go pay tuition at Palmer College of Chiropractic, because this is before Palmer was accredited. So I actually started Palmer when I was 17 years old on that. And you have to remember, my dad grew up with all the prejudice. Chiropractors weren't real popular, and so my dad grew up with all the prejudice. Your dad's a quack and all this stuff, and he didn't want that for me. So he didn't want me to come to Palmer College of Chiropractic. He says, you're going to be more respected as an engineer. I don't want you to go through all the stuff that Grandpa went through, because there was just no respect deal back then.
Tell me a little bit more about this disrespect, disdain, opposition towards the practice of chiropractic, and give me some numbers, like what date ranges.
Okay. Well, Grandpa graduated in 1924, but it was still going on when I started Palmer. There's a main road going past the college called Brady Street. It was routine when I started in 1969. People drive up the street, quack, 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 quack. But that was just part of life back then. And there was a high school on the other side of the campus. It was Central High School. Students walk by, they'd see us sitting out on the lawn, quack, 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 quack. So that was just part of life. You just knew that as a chiropractor, you're going to be putting up with that stuff.
How's that changed today?
Oh, there's a lot more respect for the profession, these days. And medical doctors routinely, when I started practice, say, you shouldn't go to a chiropractor, you're going to break your neck and all this stuff. You just don't get that anymore. But the only time I have a problem is an old MD that still doesn't know what's going on in the world. But I get referrals from MDs now and things like that. But it's changed a ton. There's just a lot more respect in the profession. Is it perfect? No. The world's just not perfect.
What would you attribute that gained respect in the profession to?
Results. We've gotten results on patients that, our reputation in chiropractic started with medical failures. We were a last resort. Somebody had already been to, 4 different MDs. They hadn't gotten a result. As a last resort, they tried chiropractors on that, and then they got results. Well, then that leads to referrals. They refer their friends. Wow, this person. Because a lot of time today, people talk about low back pain, and I didn't hear about low back pain when I was a student. It was helping people with diabetes, helping people with constipation or migraine. It was more body function type disorders that chiropractic was successful with. It wasn't a lot of stuff about pain.
I got a question about, you say you were a math whiz, right? Math whiz, and you had a full ride to study engineering. So tell me, just because you decide to pursue something else, it's not like you just forget how to do all that math. What did you find was an overlap between math, engineering, and chiropractic?
Very little.
Yeah.
Organic chemistry was easy for me because there's a lot of numbers in organic chemistry. Uh, you know, you could say there's mechanical engineering, being a chiropractor, if you will, but I didn't get far enough into it to even know and everything, and so. But I still do my quarterly taxes of my own. People just think that's crazy, but I like numbers,
And how much does, let's say, measuring play a part in what you do today?
Well, it'd be hard to describe what you mean by measuring. We have an instrument called a nervoscope, okay, that we check for nerve inflammation, and so we're watching that as we run that, glide it on either side of the spine, if you will, looking for inflammation, if you will, right? And so there's a needle on there that goes from 0 to 25, and so that'd be a measurement. Yesterday the needle kicked 10, today it's kicking 5. I know we've made improvement, as an example. And there's newer technologies now, infrared thermography, that's a measuring system. We also have surface electromyography is a measuring system. I use computerized range of motion, which is a measuring system to see how flexible you are, because the more motion a segment has, the better it's going to function. The better it's going to function, the less chance there to be degeneration starting in the spine.
I bring up the numbers and measurement because a theme that I'm hearing a lot is the difference between, let's say, other kinds of chiropractic practices and the Gonstead technique, and that is this measurable, X-rays, nervoscope, as you mentioned, and so you have, for lack of a better term, science, hard science behind the Gonstead technique. So could you elaborate a little bit to me on that kind of differentiation between other people who say chiropractic and might do this and might be more like health and wellness, PT, whatever you call it, and then Gonstead. So make that definition for me.
Okay. Well, it's hard for me because teaching at Palmer College of Chiropractic for 40 years, Palmer and Gonstead were pretty much synonymous. We always, when I was a student, we always did instrumentation. We always did motion palpation. We always did what's called spinography, which is the chiropractic utilization of X-ray. How to say this nicely? Chiropractors are humans. Some humans are lazy. So some people get away from what they're taught because manipulation is easy. I could teach anybody how to manipulate, make noise on a spine in a pretty short period of time, but to be a chiropractor is an art form, and it takes a long time to develop that art, and so that's why they call it the practice of chiropractic on that. And so it's just, Palmer was always specific, for, they've gotten away from that a little bit, but, hopefully it'll come back.
So specific. When you got a new patient walking into your clinic, a new person, get this in a second. It's obvious. A new patient walks into your clinic. What kind of things are you looking for? What's your methodology when it's so? I just walk in the door.
Okay.
Go. What do you do?
Okay. Well, first, obviously, I introduce myself and I'm pleased to meet you, and and I see Skylar referred you. Is Skylar a friend of yours? And of course you say yes. Enemies don't refer. So I always confirm that they were referred in because I was 100% referral for years. Up until recently, now I'm getting people off the internet, which just boggles my mind. After being 100% referral all these years, I was surprised when somebody picks me off a computer. Okay. And then I have patient file history form, and I sit down and do what's called a review of systems. So we won't just talk about a complaint you might have. We'll talk about other things that may not be interfering with your lifestyle, because you might have a patient come in with low back pain, but their secondary things they didn't come in for, I just have my normal headaches. Well, how often do you get those normal headaches? Well, 3 times a week. Okay, and if I hold my coffee cup too long and my hand gets numb, I just have to lay it down and shake it out. Well, see, those aren't interfering with their lifestyle, so they're not complaining about those. So the average patient comes in with one chief complaint, but they could have 6 to 8 secondary complaints on that. So I do a review of systems. I dig deep to find out what they've had with those things, and then what I do is I turn it toward them. I says, now everything we've written down are called effects. The difference between medical doctors and chiropractors, medical doctors treat effects. We try to find out what's causing those. Does that make sense? And the patient always says, yes, right? Because it's the truth. If they're taking a drug, I says, I'm sure you're not suffering from lack of Prilosec. So that's the initial history, and then I said, we're going to do testing on your nerves and muscles. That tells if it is or is not a chiropractic problem. If it is a chiropractic problem, I'll take great care of you. If it isn't, I'll help you find a doctor who can help you. Okay? I says, my secret to success is only accept patients that know I can help, because we like happy people hanging around.
So what, if any, is your personal philosophy behind doing what you do?
Well, there's a great question. Personal philosophy.
I understand there's a foundation, right? That everyone's learning, spending years to learn.
Yeah.
But then you 40 plus years, right?
Yeah.
So what is your personal?
Well, I think chiropractic philosophy and my personal philosophy go pretty much hand in hand. The body is designed to be healthy, and I have the pleasure of putting back the way it was designed, and so it's just like if you cut your finger and you put a Band-Aid on it, that Band-Aid doesn't heal that cut. Your body does that healing. If you broke an arm, you put a cast on it. Well, that cast doesn't heal it. The body heals it. And so we just adjust the body, get the body functioning the way it was designed, and the body heals itself.
So ideally, the ideal patient, or I don't know if perfect is the right word, but they don't need you. Is that fair to say? That someone whose body is already healthy?
Well, there's a lot of people that think they're healthy that aren't. I've had some people come in and say, oh, I'm healthy as a horse. And they're taking 6 different drugs. Well, if you're taking 6 different drugs, your body's not healthy. Okay? Because they haven't made a drug yet without a bad effect. Everything. And a lot of times they're on 3 drugs taking care of the bad effects of the first 3 drugs. But they think they're healthy. A lot of people think a lack of symptoms is health. But that's not health at all. Everything. It's, if you look at the World Health Organization definition of health, and I don't know if I can pull it off the top of my head, it's not just the lack of symptoms, but physical, spiritual, and mental well-being. And that's what it's all about. Is you have some people that, might think they're healthy, okay, but then they drop dead of a heart attack the next day. So they weren't healthy. I have some people that think they're healthy and they eat at McDonald's. And no disrespect to McDonald's, that's not healthy eating.
How do you feel about Taco Bell?
Say it. You gotta say it.
Well, I have the pleasure of being in the Quad Cities where we have a large Hispanic population. That'd be an insult to my Hispanic patients to eat at a Taco Bell. All right, that isn't Mexican food. All right, so if you don't have a Hispanic last name, I'm not eating there.
How do you feel, or how do you talk about dietary choices in food?
Well, when I first start, I don't try to change anything in their life except chiropractic. Because if they get better, they know it's because of chiropractic. If they get worse, I know I'm the only change. But if I change lifestyle, okay, you got to do this exercise, you got to eat this, got to do this, and they get better, we really haven't learned anything. If they get worse, we really haven't learned anything. So I always, the first month is strictly me. I'm the only change in their life. Because they says, should I do any exercise? Not just be yourself. That's all I can ask right now. Okay? And then once they learn a little bit more about me and see what we're doing, okay, and I see that we're not progressing as fast as we should, then we start talking about lifestyle. But, I still have patients that smoke. everybody knows smoking's bad for you, you know. So obviously, you know, you can suggest lifestyle. It has to be the individual that changes lifestyle. A good example: I used to be 210 pounds. Okay, and I was always fat. I was fat was a little kid and everything, and then I got junior high. I'd go on a diet. I'd, you know, lose 10 pounds. By the end of the year, I gained 15. You know, it was always an up and down thing. But I attended a lecture. This is after I was in practice. Said a fat doctor could not promote health. It was like somebody hitting me in the face with a shovel. I thought, well, how can I tell you to take care of your health if I'm not taking care of my health? Right? And so I went on the same diet I'd been on numerous years before. I just stuck with it, you know, and didn't change. And so instead of being 210, I'm 160 right now. So
Just a second, we're going to revisit that.
Yeah. We gotta, I don't know.
Okay, you got it. Whoever's talking, we can hear him. Whoever's talking outside in the hall, we can hear him.
Okay.
Let me hit two of those for
Yeah. Sorry.
Can we revisit that? Can't have a fat doctor give me advice.
you just tell me where to start.
We'll start at the. I think you started with. I used to be 200 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah. Go for taking it from there.
Well, I used to be 210 pounds, everything, and then, you know, I was always on a diet. I was fat from the time I was a little kid. You know, then I hit junior high. Started thinking about myself. I'd try to go on a diet, but then I'd, you know, gain the weight back. It was just a seesaw going back and forth over the years. And then after I was in practice, I attended a lecture, and this lecturer said a fat doctor could not promote health. And it was like somebody literally hit me in the face with a shovel. Right? And so I went on a diet, and I didn't cheat for 6 months. You know, because I used to justify that if you had a bread group, a chocolate chip cookie was part of the bread group, but I didn't cheat just once. I didn't have any alcohol and everything. And, you know, so I went from 210 to 180, and just from the lifestyle changes and not being on a diet, I went from 180 to 170, just, you know, from changing lifestyle. And I was done dieting. Okay, and then my daughter was really great with nutrition, and my wife was an excellent cook, and everything. And then they started doing the whole 30 diet and everything. And so I ate like a king, but they were prepping in the kitchen all the time. And then I dropped another 10 pounds, you know, from that and everything. And so I've been sitting at 160 for quite a few years right now.
And what would be? Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna text on.
Yeah. Let me just
So we can hear it like that.
Let me go out there. I'll quiet down.
I was gonna say, we just need to send him out there. He'll get him to the show.
Yeah, we are hearing everything.
That's what Fred's Bar Chiropractors?
Yeah.
We're filming. Shut up.
Shut up.
Yeah, good time. Yeah. Just put another memory card in this one.
Can you put one in here sometimes? I need a memory card.
Oh, the reason is Rick Albert is here. Then when Rick Albert laugh, everybody here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not shy. You want me to go out and tell him to move? I can get him to move.
Use voice needs to keep quiet.
Want me to do it?
We got.
Okay.
Yep. That's that.
Yeah, I feel like you want to.
He's like, "I want to."
You're gonna be good too.
Well, graduation ceremonies at Palmer, they always say the same thing. To show respect for the ceremony, please hold your applause till all candidates have been granted their degrees. And nobody ever done it. I hold the record for the only graduation where they didn't interrupt. I need everybody's attention, please. This is a very dignified ceremony, and we want everybody to have the utmost respect for each candidate. And if you're clapping after your candidate, you're covering up the name of the person following. So please hold your applause to the very end. And my fellow faculty, I can't believe you pulled it off. Nobody had ever pulled it off. It's the only graduation ever.
Such a commanding voice.
Do you have any questions you want to?
You keep going. Doing awesome.
Yep.
Can we get? So we kind of went a little bit of a general, a little bit of history, personal. Can you talk to me about the technical the technical part of what you do. Some things I've heard already just even today are things about sensitivity on your fingertips. The longer you do it, the more sensitive you get. I've been hearing 5 to 10 years, just suck it up, it's gonna be hard. You're gonna think you suck, wanna quit, don't. But it's hard to acquire technical skills in anything you do. It's gonna take time, practice, failures, all of that. So what technical advice, if anything, do you have? We'll start with like, what problems do you see a lot of chiropractors have problems with or make mistakes with technically? We'll just start there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the advantage I had from teaching and being a student, everything, is the training I had for palpation, which is where you feel things, is we were actually taught to pull a hair from our head, put underneath notebook paper, and during lectures, you'd be searching for that paper or for that hair. And then you just keep adding layers on it. It was kind of like the old Princess and the Pea story, you know. And so that develops a light touch, because too many people have a very heavy touch, you know, but it's actually a light touch is where you develop those things. So that was part of my training with that, and then I passed it on to my students as well. And then, you know, earlier we talked about running a nervoscope. We actually ran a dummy instrument that had a black face. You know, it didn't have a needle on it nothing to read. And we had to do 500 glides with a dummy instrument before we were allowed to use a real instrument. So you had to make sure you straddled the spine, you had to have equal pressure, you had to be 90 degrees to the spine, and so we were critiqued on our glide before we were able to give an instrument to interpret, right? And it's kind of like driver's ed. When you took driver's ed, you know, you learned that your hands are at 10 and 2, okay, and you come up on this octagonal shaped sign, you know, it's a stop sign, you stop and you're supposed to count 1001, 1002, 1003, and then you took off. We all learned to drive that way, but very few of us to drive that. We drive innately, okay? You know, you don't think about the stop sign, you just automatically stop there. When you go through a clover leaf, you innately lean into the curve. Same thing, you have to learn all the steps on the physical plane first before they go to the subconscious plane. So now when I'm running an instrument, I'm not thinking about running the instrument. I'm strictly, you know, I'm feeling the road with the instrument, but I can watch the needle to find out where a nerve irritation is. Okay. When I check the function of the spine, I'm concentrating on what's happening underneath my fingers. You know, or example, I'm checking these. I have ladies say, "Oh, I didn't shave my legs." I said, "I wouldn't have noticed if you hadn't said anything, because I'm so focused on what's on the inside." You know, so it's just part of the training. It's called, like I said, the practice of chiropractic. And in order to get good is to do it. You know, it's like, I heard a lady not too long ago, says, "Don't go near that water till you learn how to swim." Well, you gotta throw them in the water. I mean, you're not gonna learn to swim being on the shore. You know, you have to get in the water to learn how to swim. Same thing, you have to do it. And it's repetition, repetition, repetition.
So, can you speak to me about the importance of, we've spoken about tools, a neuroscope, x-ray, many, you know, but what about the hand? The hand as a tool.
Mm-hmm.
We've got different shaped hands, I think someone was just talking about how Dr. Gonstead's hands were like huge and he had arthritis, you know, and like his fingers were like curled. So every chiropractor has a different tool when we're talking about the tool of the hand. Now, what would you say, like, how do you get proficient at using your own tool of your hands? Besides, you mentioned that example with the hair and the paper, but really fine-tuning your own hands, how can one go about that?
No, it's just like learning how to golf, learning to do a baseball swing. It's strictly a practice thing. But you're talking about Dr. Gonstead's hands, because I have fairly large hands, right? And so I asked Dr. Gonstead once, can I put my hands next to yours? He was only 5'8". I'm 5'9". Right? He had a half of phalanx. This is the phalanx. He had a half of phalanx on me. I thought, holy cow. And so my daughter's hand comes about here on me. So where I might adjust into the upper back, you know, with my hands, my daughter could get about halfway down your neck, to do the same adjustment. So you have to have the physical tools to do certain adjustments. But that's the advantage, with the Gonstead system, is you learn many different adjustments for every single problem. Because the problem, if you only have one tool in your toolbox, let's say it's a hammer, everything starts looking like a nail. So you have to have lots of tools, because you have different body types you're going to work on. And so the more tools you have in the toolbox, the better off you're going to be.
And, go for it.
So I've heard people use that phrase when they talk about utilizing different techniques in practice. So how do you know that as a Gonstead chiropractor, we're not just hammers finding patients that will be helped by Gonstead, but that's what they need?
Okay, yeah, but within the Gonstead system, you have to understand there's many different adjustments. And, Gonstead isn't an adjustment, it is a system. It's a system of analysis, where is the subluxation? Okay, we call it right bone, right direction, right time, all right. And so within the Gonstead system, we have numerous ways to adjust every single segment, right? And that's why I have numerous tables that we use. So even though it's one system, there's a lot of different adjustments within that system that you can utilize. So many different ways.
What? Oh, you got one?
Okay.
I got one.
Okay, go for it.
Maybe share with Kenji, when you start your day, maybe you could share with him what like head, heart, and hands means to you, and maybe what else goes through your head when you start your day.
Well, I start each day with a prayer. Okay, dear Lord, please guide my head, heart, and hands as I take care of your patients. That's always my quiet time before I begin. I just say, let go, let God. I don't have any problem with that. I just kind of go where my hands are led, and because I'm smart enough that I'm not the healer. I'm just an assistant on this. I just try to get your body back the way God designed it, everything. So, and then back to it's called PTC, present time consciousness. Okay, Kenji, if you're in my adjusting room, you're the most important person in my life. Okay, I can't think about the person that just left. I can't think about somebody's coming. I can't think about stresses outside the office. PTC, present time consciousness, 100% with you. Okay, but as soon as I walk out of the adjusting room with you and I walk into another adjusting room, you don't exist anymore. I'm 100% focused on that patient. So that's a lot of it, is be present. Be with that patient. You can't be thinking about, geez, am I behind? Are there 5 people sitting out there waiting for me? It doesn't matter. Just be 100% focused on who you're with.
Couple of things I've heard that echo that is that people who have came here or another clinic of Gonstead oftentimes have to wait like an hour, 2-3 hours after their appointment time. Would you say that's because of this PTC?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm good enough to that. I do get stressed out if I'm running behind, but you can't catch up. And that's it. So I'm stressed, but I kind of stop and refocus for a second. Say, okay, I got to give 100% to this particular patient. Right.
The Today Society, and then we can wrap up with that. People waiting for Gonstead.
Okay.
Yep. Go for it.
Okay. In today's society, I hate to say it, we're a fast food society. People are on the go too much. I mean, when I was growing up, you had a family dinner. Now it's, after soccer practice, you drive the kids to McDonald's and grab stuff. Everybody's going. So if I tried to let my patients wait an hour, they'd probably quit on that. They want to get in, get their adjustment, and get out. Right? And I found that out that, I can actually talk too much sometimes. They're not interested, in my opinion, on weather or sports. Once they understand what I'm doing by correcting verbal subluxation, they don't need to be entertained by me. Right? They come in, get the adjustment, and they're happy, when they get in, get out fast, right? Because they've got a really good adjustment. Their health is much better, right? You know, so today's people aren't going to sit around for an hour. Where Dr. Gonstead had the advantage, 80% of his patients came from outside the state of Wisconsin. You know, so they made a time commitment just to come up to Mount Horeb. You know, and a lot of times they, you know, we had the Caracol Motel down here. A lot of patients would stay at the Caracol Hotel, or motel, I should say, you know, and spend time. They're going to be here for days to weeks sometimes.
And before we wrap up, if there's anything else you guys want, I'm just going to do the wrap up one.
I want to hear, because you are faculty or teacher, professor for the Chiropractic College.
I was.
Yeah, you are. If you can share the really, really uplifting message to the student right now, or maybe future student.
Let's do that in a second.
That'd be great.
And actually, we're going to divert your eyes to this camera, the closest one,
Okay.
right here. And you can just speak first person. And this
Okay.
will be your message, just as Dr. Hockey just said. In a second here. Could you start also with your experience as a professor, someone who passing on this information to people who are seeking it? So you can kind of start with that experience,
Okay.
and then wrap it up with the message to them. It's almost like a commencement speech.
Okay.
You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Oh,
Yeah.
don't tell me that. I went through so many boring commencement speeches.
But it ain't Dr. Burns' speech. All right, ready when you are.
Regarding teaching at Palmer College of Chiropractic for 40 years is, you know, it's not easy. It's hard. It requires work. You know, to become a chiropractor, you have to work on your skills continuously. You know, work on your skills. It's not when you walk in the clinic the first time, all of a sudden lightning bolts come out your hands. It requires a lot of practice. You have to do that. And so the key thing is, it's like eating an elephant. Do it every single night. Do a little bit of skill every single night. Work on your adjusting thrust, work on your palpation, work on your instrumentation, you know, to develop those practical skills over the years. So when you finally get to the clinic, you'll be much more prepared to take care of those patients, because you'll be given a great education in the college, but then you have to master those arts, and that's why they call it the practice of chiropractic. But it requires a lot of practice, a lot of persistence, you know, time, lots of time. We've never kicked anybody out of the profession for being too good, everything. So it requires much, much practice on that.
Thank you.
Did I answer your question? I forgot what your question was. Huh?
Yeah,
That was it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Just
that was
kinda
the message.
That
Okay.
was perfect.
Okay.
Alrighty.
That was brilliant.
Thank you.
My pleasure. It's
Thanks,
funny.
Doc.
Good.
It's funny. I've been an expert witness for malpractice cases since '77. You know, first I thought, am I on the witness stand? Yeah.
Since we got all of you in here, let's just get a picture of all you guys together right now.
Oh, great.